Yeah. So one more important point which the ministry has introduced, and probably it could be it may have a long term effect, is that the ministry has provided that now you can send the notices of the annual general meeting and the annual report through electronic means. So you can send it by email. So as of now, this is being introduced, and SEBI had introduced it long back, around 2 to 3 years back, and even under the Companies Act. If the email ID of the shareholder is registered with the company, then probably the company need not provide a hard copy unless and until it is requested for by the shareholder. So you will be receiving about the annual report and the notice and the financial statements by email only. So similar provisions are now being introduced by a circular that you can now issue it through electronic means. Now, this is again a very important point from the company's perspective, because ultimately the cost of compliance gets reduced and they use maximum technology in this particular process. So, quite interesting, quite helpful, and quite you can say technologically driven amendment which has got a very wider impact. Now, very recently we had the rights issue of Reliance Industries Limited, voluminous issue. I'm not able to recollect the issue size, but it was one of the biggest rights issues in the recent times, especially in the COVID-19 situation. So, even in the rights issue, if you see, we didn't receive any you can say any postal documents or rights offer letter or any application, or we didn't have to submit any check DD anywhere. So everything was electronically driven. So this would be the next future of the Companies Act, or the future with respect to the compliances. So you will not imagine somewhere around 12, 15 or 20 crore, 20,000 crores, 12, 15, some amount of thousands of crores was raised without even printing a document. So that is probably the power of the technology, and probably, yeah, I'm very sure that certain shareholders who have been the most loyal shareholders to Reliance Industries, and where they don't have you can say where they don't have the shares in demat form, and they are holding the share certificates in the physical form which have been signed by Shri Dhirubhai Ambani. So these shareholders would be affected because they may not have an email ID and they would have not been able to apply for the same. But the shareholders who are tech savvy, probably that would have been one of the important ways in which that they could apply for the issue. Okay, so now let's move to another point. I have just taken down one or two circulars, and would like to discuss something on the insolvency and bankruptcy code, because since we are discussing on the impact of the you can say the Companies Act and the COVID-19 situation, we also need to discuss the insolvency and bankruptcy code, because it is ultimately relating to the corporates and the companies in India. And if at all a company, the insolvency resolution plan is initiated, then in that case what remedies and what activities they can do and what activities they cannot do is all provided in the insolvency and bankruptcy code. The insolvency and bankruptcy code also explains what is default, what is how much is the amount that is there. Earlier the amount was just a default of 1 lakh rupees. Now they have increased it to 1 crore rupees. So any insolvency which is any default by a company, the company in the insolvency bankruptcy code is now is referred to as the corporate debtor. And then we have got creditors. Creditors are further divided into operational creditors and financial creditors. Then you have got a concept of debt. Now debt means if at all it has been you can say undisputed debt, then in that case the amount is more than 1 lakh rupees, then the person can initiate corporate insolvency proceedings against the company. This is what the law is all about. Now what has happened is that The Now what has happened is the threshold has been increased from 1 lakh rupees to 1 crore rupees, and therefore it becomes a bit difficult for companies or for banks. This has the biggest impact on the banks because banks are the people who take control of the company immediately when there is a default by the company. So banks will take charge of the assets of the company. But now it is not 1 lakh, now it is 1 crores. So they have prescribed that date and compliance. So I will just read out some aspect which is mentioned over here. This is the rationale of introducing the ordinance, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Ordinance 2020. What the government observed that the ordinance amends the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. Entire ecosystem of implementation is in place. The provisions relating to corporate insolvency process and liquidation process for corporate persons under the code are in operation. COVID-19 pandemic has impacted business, financial markets and economy all over the world, including India, and created uncertainty and stress for business for reasons beyond their control. And then there is a mention about the nationwide lockdown is in force from since 25th of March 2020 to combat the spread of the COVID-19, which has added to the disruption of normal business operation. The government further states in the ordinance that it is difficult to find an adequate number of resolution applicants to rescue the corporate persons who may default in discharge of their debt obligation. And whereas it is considered expedient to suspend the relevant provisions of the IBC to prevent corporate persons which are experiencing distress on account of unprecedented situation being pushed into insolvency during the code for some time. So since the parliament was not in session, they have introduced this particular ordinance, and then the certain provisions have been kept on hold, and the threshold of 1 crore has now been prescribed. So the limits have been the limits are high, as well as the certain provisions have been suspended. So practically this will have an impact on the economy, this will have an impact on the companies also, and this will have an impact on the banks, because practically the you can say the way in which the banks usually used to recover was under the provisions of the CPC, and if at all there is a criminal angle to it, then CRPC, and there was a provision under which they used to recover the money. But now the situation has changed, and or the situation had changed. So the companies moved from the CPC to IBC, and now again IBC is on the cold storage, and probably we may have certain pending amounts with the companies. So this is one aspect about the insolvency and bankruptcy code. Though, as I discussed earlier, it was necessary for me to discuss about the IBC because IBC is one of the parts of the companies and has an important impact on the company. Yeah, so I come to the end of my today's session of almost 1 hour, and I hope this session was helpful for the participants. I thank the college for providing me with this opportunity. And if at all there are any queries, I have already mentioned my email address and given it to Maithili ma'am. So you may ask any questions which you feel are relevant. You can also check my website. Basically, it is a website that is a compilation of all my published articles of around 200 to 300 articles that I have published. So I have put it on my website. So it is www.csgauravpingale.com. So I have got quite a few good feedbacks from the professionals and researchers that the articles are very helpful, and I want to ensure that it also reaches to the audience of the college and the people who are attending the faculty development program. So I thank all, and thank you for the patience, and I really pray and hope that we are out of this pandemic soon, and we come back to the normal new, or the new normal. And though we have started the new normal, we means I really pray and hope that now nobody wears a mask. Everybody is freely moving, just like they did in the month of March 2020. And there is no disease, there is no spread of disease. And let's hope that everything come back to normal as early as possible. I also feel that students start coming to college, and college starts working as a normal activity. And so I really pray that we come back to normal at the earliest. So thank you very much. Thank you, Maithili ma'am and Vasant sir, and even Sagar Kulkarni, company secretary from Nashik. I would like to take any questions if there are any. Considering that now this is not a two-way session, I'm not very sure of how many will be fully interested or would have got some idea about the company law compliances. So thank you all, thank you very much, and I really hope to meet you all soon at Nasik College, so that there is a one-to-one interaction as well. Thank you.